You've joined me today on a working wetland. This is one of our wetland treatment systems, and it's also a fantastic place for wildlife. And I'm sitting next to what is probably one of the best harbingers of spring, the cheerful flowers of Marsh Marigold, sometimes called kingcup. This plant is such a useful wetland plant. It's one of the first in flower, comes out in March with this fantastic buttercup yellow flower. It is actually a member of the buttercup family. And these give not only useful flower to cheer us up in March, but they provide early nectar for insects and a bit of cover with these big leaves at water level, which frogs and other critters can use to hide under. Marsh Marigold, that's Caltha palustris, is such a useful plant. It's very early to flower, but it's also a true marginal that will grow in water up to about 6 inches, 150 mil, or damp soil. On the edge of ponds and ditches is probably its favourite habitat, but it will also tolerate shade, which means we can see it flowering in wet woodland, which is such a useful but quite rare habitat. So there it is, Marsh Marigold, one of our most impressive wetland plants, also one of our most impressive native wildflowers, because many of our flora are quite subtle. If you're out walking in your local wetland and you see it early in the year, big splash of yellow, you can't go wrong. Caltha palustris, impress your friends. Now here we are in the pond zone, and I've got a completely different plant for you. Sitting next to the Marsh Marigold is the delightful, delicate cuckoo flower, Cardamone Protensis, also known as lady's smock, and in the north of England, milkmaids. This is such a different plant, you really need to get close up to it to appreciate it. It's got delicate veining on the petals, a colour which is hard to describe, which is not cream, not purple, but somewhere in the middle. And it's also got very, very delicate stems with a beautiful purplish bloom on them and a rosette of leaves down the bottom, which, if you look at closely, are very, very similar to watercress, which is actually a relative of this plant. And here we've got a fabulous stand of cuckoo flower. It's in its perfect habitat, damp soil, a little bit of shade so it doesn't dry out. You often see it growing on the edge of ditches. It doesn't grow in the water itself, but it just finds the moisture gradient that it likes and then just spreads out and forms these patches of delicate violet. So there you have it, two very different plants, both of which grow in wetland environments and are flowering at this time of year. So it's early spring when you can see Marsh Marigold, beautiful big yellow in-your-face flower, and then the more subtle lady's smock or cuckoo flower growing along damp ditches. So if you've enjoyed this, come back again in a few weeks' time when we'll be back in the reserve looking for what flowers in the wetlands in late spring, early summer. Thanks very much.